It's like people that like, they're like, all right, I'm turning off replies because all the Nazis found my post. And like, what was your original post? I hate white people. Okay. For sure, yeah. God, you really got the Nazis riled up with this one, didn't you?
Versus Thrall.
That writer that everybody likes to hate, Listener Mercante, she posted talking about how anybody that was criticizing about, or some of the people they're criticizing about, aren't adding anything meaningful to the industry. I commented back simply saying that that's funny because they're actually contributing with their money, which is likely the most important contribution of all, and protected. These are the kind of opinions that are shaping games. Game developers will always lean towards their fans because they're most likely the people that will buy the game in the future or their next game or whatever it might be. But the problem is that if you're not listening to those that
well, what's happened is that these people have done a very good job, and you know, the facade is beginning, it's completely cracked. It's done, right? It's over at this point. But for a long time, these people actively misrepresented what the fan base was. And they actively tried to gaslight developers and studios and publishers into thinking that actually, if you want to make a really popular game, you have to make it for this, you know, like wide audience of people that doesn't play video games, without ever thinking, why don't they play video games? And where is your mainstream audience?
criticizing your games, if you're being protected,
Parents, they succeeded
from
for a
people
while, yeah, they
that
did.
are trying to criticize your games, well, then your audience is going to get smaller and smaller each passing year.
They do.
If you're down to the point where you have to have your fan base out there telling people not to compare a $70 AAA full-price game to games made over a decade ago, you're in a real bad place.
Yeah.
You're in a very, very bad place.
Please, guys, don't look at the 17-year-old. No, 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 no. This isn't, the comparison's not fair. You see back then and the engine, no, it's not the same.
This is why we get tone-deaf games. They are making
That's
games
bad.
for their protectors. And these folks are contrarians. They see people that are out there and
It's
they
like a
see them.
steakhouse letting a vegan. Yeah, it's a vegan reviewing steakhouses. Exactly. Yeah, this wasn't for you in the first place.
Themselves as white knights, and they have to defend the game that they like because, well,
Yeah.
they can't have a wrong opinion, and the only way
Of
to not
course.
have a wrong opinion is to go after those people. Anytime they
Naturally.
see negative comments, it sends their blood pressure up over 140. They're
No.
pulling their blinds down and checking out the window to look outside. Negative discourse can't exist. And because of that, it's painting an incomplete picture for some of these games for what a general audience actually looks like. And that's why they're not finding an audience that resonates with
This
them.
is like that guy at Ubisoft. It's like, how are our games failing? The critical reviewers gave it an 8. Yeah, the gaming critics said it was really good. Yeah, all the users said it sucked, but look at the review. Look at what well, the reviews said it was good.
Games. And now while the players are definitely making their contribution to muddying the water and making it difficult for some of these studios to nail down who their audience is, it doesn't help that these developers are looking in all the wrong places as well. I saw a tweet the other day from Michael Dowse, Larian Studios head of publishing, and it really hit the nail on the head because he was talking about how so many of these big budget games don't actually tell players what they are before launch, nor do they understand who that audience is before they launch. They rely on billboards, hype, and broad marketing campaigns, but they failed to build any real relevance or resonance before they released. It's a completely avoidable disaster, but it keeps happening because these games are assuming that they have an audience before actually trying to earn one. And that's where this industry keeps going wrong, because for years now, publishers have still been relying on outdated methods to try to figure out what players want. Metrics, surveys, focus groups, and curated fan feedback that's painting an imaginary picture of what that audience actually looks like. Now, what makes matters even worse is today's modern internet culture where people don't actually say what they think. They say what they think they're supposed to say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, everybody has opinions that are based off of, like, basically saying the thing that you're supposed to say. Having the opinion that you're supposed to have. You're not going to go off of that, like, off of that narrow road. That's it. Yeah, their opinions are given to them. Because
Sure,
of
they
fear.
virtue sig-
What's everybody? I think a lot of the people that are in... So basically a good example of this is that if you look at any form of media, no form of traditional published media criticizes any element of DEI, and it unilaterally supports it with no critical evaluation whatsoever. And you can very clearly see this is not.
Was that right?
This is not what average people think. It's not. And why is that? Why is that happening?
No, they perform for social approval, and if you're a game developer that's listening to that, well, you're going to get wildly inaccurate data on what players actually want. That's how we end up with insane takes like PC Gamer's recent article claiming that today's teens and young adults aren't interested in romance in video games. Really, the same teenagers and young adults that are obsessing and shipping Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail characters, the same
to be fair, the ones that are doing that are actually 30-year-old bald men. But yeah.
Fueling the insane success of visual novels and dating sims, they don't want romance. Interesting. But because a survey told them otherwise, now developers are going to run with that and take it seriously and start making games under the assumption that this is what people want. This is what happens when you rely on performative data rather than actual engagement. If today's teens and young adults...
common sense. You really think that teenagers don't want to have the ability to romance a teenage guy doesn't want to have the ability to romance the girl in the game with big boobs? Do you really, I mean, let's just take a step back here. Do you really think that they don't want that? Because if you really think they don't want that, you're an idiot.
Don't care about romance. Explain why Baldur's Gate 3 blew up over its character interactions. Explain why Love in Deep Space pulled nearly $500 million in revenue. Because here's the thing, surveys, focus groups, and social media feedback today aren't about truth, it's about posturing. We live in a world where people unironically call a 21-year-old a former teen in a protected class, where any romance...
Former minor, bro. Oh my god.
...and media is scrutinized under a moral microscope, where people are constantly worried about how their opinions will be perceived. And when that's the environment in which you're conducting surveys, you are never going to get honest answers. That's why the best way for you to be able to understand what players want isn't to ask them, it's actually just to go watch what they're playing. Look at the games that have stood the test of time. Dark Souls didn't need to pander to younger audiences to be loved by younger players. Elden Ring didn't need focus groups to figure out whether or not it was a worthwhile investment. Baldur's Gate 3 didn't need to be rewritten for modern sensibilities to be the biggest RPG in years. Marvel Rivals doesn't need to have socially safe designs to be popular. The most successful games across multiple generations are the ones that focused on simply being great games. They weren't built for a specific demographic.
And they're not built for an identity group either. I think that if, again, all of this, counter stuff of, oh, well, we think characters should be made this way, or we think this should be included in your game, you have to keep in mind that the reason why these people exist is because they weren't being represented in the first place. And maybe the reason why they weren't being represented is because they don't exist in that space. It's the same as Kingdom Come Deliverance or a game like this. These are games made for guys. These are guy games. And you're going to make the game for guys. And if you do that, they're going to be happy. This is the same reason why manga is completely outperforming comics in America, is that comic books in America don't know what their audience is. Manga is defined by its audience. Shonens are for young men. That's basically that's the word. They know what they are.
Designed to be socially approved, and that's what made them timeless. But I think the biggest mistake that these developers are making isn't just using bad data, it's that they're trying to forcefully blend audiences that don't need to be blended. Instead of committing to a clear vision, they're trying to make a game that appeals to both youth and adults at the same time, and in the process, they're making games that don't resonate with anyone. I can't be the only one that's noticing how many mature-rated games are suffering from an identity crisis. They want to tackle mature topics, but they refuse to actually write or present them maturely.
That's because the people that write them are stupid. And they're not good writers. That's the reason why. So why are they not able to approach mature topics in a mature way? It's because they're bad writers and they're immature personally. Metaphor had no problem doing that. Final Fantasy 16 had no problem doing that. Disco Elysium, as far as I know, has no problem doing that. I didn't play enough of it to really know. Cyberpunk has no problem